So I am making this video again because last video I only had 2 likes and no replies. I have 20 views on that video. No one replied how in the world it happened. So what happened practically, okay? So let me explain. A long time ago, I decided in middle school to get an aquarium. A lot of my friends told me, that's a bad idea. You know, my fish died. Literally one of my friends said that their fish died because their eyeballs got out. Lord have mercy if I experienced that. I am never having a pet ever, but thank God I didn't, and I still love animals. I'm kidding, by the way. But anyways, you know, like a lot of times people who literally tell me not to get fish because their fish would die. They have a beta fish that's literally inside a bowl, dirty as fuck, don't really do anything with it, and then they end up dying, and then they blame it on the fish. So it's like, you know, when I was little, I believed in it. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. But long story short, it was too late, and I got a 29-gallon aquarium tank, right? And it was one of the best things I've ever had in my entire life, because I would never, and I mean ever, share this experience with you guys unless I made that decision, because it's crazy on what happened. So let's start from the beginning. So I go on Facebook. Again, I told this story. I'm going to tell the story again. I go on Facebook, and all of a sudden I see this amazing, gorgeous looking 29-gallon tank. It has soil. The soil were pretty much tiny rocks that you could buy in pet stores. Again, I said this in last videos, and it was just like an amazing looking, like everything was amazing. There were giant rocks, fake plants. There were, mind you, by the way, there was no plants whatsoever. It was simply giant rocks, tiny also little rocks that act like soil, and even then, couple fake plants then and there, and all done, set, done. Everything looked completed, and all of that was literally for $30 only. Imagine buying a 29-gallon tank for all of that stuff for only, what, 30 bucks. What's crazy is the oxygen was there with it. Like, they literally even gave us the oxygen, and they gave us, you know, they gave us the heater. They gave us everything that we needed. They even gave us the small, tiny, what is it called? I don't know what it's called, but you know, those tiny little chemical things that you put in so, you know, algae doesn't spread. You know what I'm talking about? So they literally gave us everything, even filters, okay? So literally they gave us everything. And so we go to their house, by the way, and we get everything. And so here I am, you know, getting in their house and practically, you know, getting their stuff, right? And we have practically everything. Soil, we have everything. Then they give us, you know, a couple fish, right? They're like, hey, do you want us to have a couple fish? I was like, yeah, sure. But here's the thing. Back then, when I made the video almost a month ago, I said they gave us mollies. But by the way, we were the ones who bought the mollies. Well, they give us a couple fish that, even till this day, I don't know what they were. One of them were plecos. They were like little plecos that would stick inside the wall, like cleaning the aquarium. There were also 2 other fish, which I don't remember. I remember one of them either being tiny or slender or something like that. But whatever it was, there were 2 other fish swimming around the pretty much aquarium. Another amazing thing is you have to understand these things were kind of in a bag. So either, I don't remember if they gave us a container or a bag, but I'm just going to say a bag for the sake of this video, because it really, yeah, because I remember me like, I don't know, cutting a bag, but that was probably because I bought a molly or something. Long story short, they gave us their fish, right? Then we go to the pet store, and that's where we bought mollies. We bought other different types of fish. We bought about 4 or 6 different types of fish with, you know, different species and stuff like that. So in total, we probably had around 6 or 7 species. So while we had 6 or 7 species, so let's say 7 species for the sake of this video, a lot of these species, you know, like, they were just thriving. Again, I mainly forgot most of the species, but it was mainly with mollies, those plecos, and a giant predator fish. This predator fish, by the way, had giant whiskers, and it had like a long, like it literally looks like this, and it had giant whiskers, and it was a giant predator fish. I would say it was around 5 or 6 inches long. Again, I'm not entirely 100% sure, but it was just, again, a giant predator fish. Again, most of it were mollies, algae eaters, and just, you know, other different types of fish. And here's the crazy part about this, okay? The crazy part about this is I had these fish for about 2 months, okay? We cleaned it, we fed it, we did everything that was practically necessary for almost 2 months, right? And then one day we forgot. We simply forgot to clean. We also forgot to feed and forgot to do everything. And here's the crazy part. Within that day, it started out the 700 days. Literally, it was 700 days of them thriving inside that 29-gallon tank that we provided, by the way. And it was insane. And by the way, keep in mind, there was literally, no plants, no food, no nothing. The only food that they had was literally by our food that we give, right? And so everything was provided by us, even oxygen or whatever. And even then, the oxygen just didn't work. The only thing at the end of the day worked was, the heater. And even then, it was insane how long that they thrived. So let me start from, again, day one of me not feeding it, right? It literally did last for almost 700 days. Day one, not feeding it. Again, everything was normal. And the only reason why I forgot to feed it was simply because I woke up late for school. That was it. Again, I was in middle school and I was, again, late for school, and I needed to get the hell out of the house or else I'm gonna get in big trouble because, I gotta go to school, right? That's what I had to do. And so here I was, I had to go to school, and I literally forgot to feed the fish. Again, it's normal if you forget to feed the fish, let's say within a day or two. Like, personally, I've seen people, accidentally feeding or forgetting, feeding their fish within, 20 hours or something like that. And then they go, oh, I need to feed my fish. And it's not an uncommon thing, but you shouldn't do it at all. Even if you have one fish. So like I said, don't do what I did. I just simply got really lucky. But anyways, on day one, obviously we simply just forgot to feed the fish. And ever since then, literally algae was breeding and just growing inside. Here's the crazy part. Algae literally grew within a month, right? And that's crazy because there were different types of algae. There were long algae. There were green algae that literally covered the entire aquarium. And there were insane different algae. Another thing, there were probably microorganisms or something like that because these algae thrived. And I mean thrived like crazy. Within crazy amount of time, literally everything thrived and everything was crazy. And here's the crazy part that I also forgot to mention last video is the filter, again, didn't work because the algae literally covered the entire filter, and especially the oxygen just didn't work. The only thing that worked was the heater, and other than that, that was simply it. And somehow, some way, the algae, again, I looked this up on ChatGPT, I looked it up on Google, algae produces a lot of oxygen, and I did not know this. And here's the thing, I had no idea that the algae literally was producing oxygen. So again, most of the oxygen by, let's say, 6 months, right? By a 200, 300 day period was literally mainly by the algae. And this is, again, more of a detailed video here because last video I wasn't really detailed. So again, like I said, in this video, I'm telling you, the only oxygen, the only thing that was keeping the fish alive was simply what's inside the aquarium, and that was the heater. And other than that, that was it, with algae, microorganisms, and all of that stuff. But here's what's crazy. What's crazy is even though all of this stuff happened, you have to understand, and I literally mean this, you have to understand the fish were thriving. I'm talking mollies were eating algae. I'm talking animals were breeding. And even the predator, for God's sake, we only had one of it, by the way, had a baby, and one of it almost grew, but then ended up dying. But even then, the fact that it literally had babies, and most of these, most of the species were literally growing and thriving inside. Everything was thriving to the point where it literally didn't need any food. What's crazy is even, the algae and stuff like this, even the plecos that I told you about, again, we didn't feed it. Some people feed it cucumbers and then broccoli or something like that. I don't know about broccoli. I know cucumbers, but broccoli is a big statement because I don't know. But, like cucumbers, most of the time people will feed them and stuff like this. And here's the thing. I didn't feed them at all whatsoever. The entire tank was literally thriving inside a microorganism / algae. That was it. That was it. And it was insane. And what's crazy about it is we didn't feed it for 700 days. And the only reason why, and I mean this literally, the only reason why that every single one of them decided to end up dying within the 700 days because most of those fish got old. Most of these fish, again, like mollies, typically live between 3 to 5 years. They got old. They literally ended up like they couldn't swim most of the time, and they like just got old. It wasn't like a low oxygen thing or anything like that. I looked up what it looks like, but it was simply because they got old. Even the plecos itself, they literally looked really old, and they looked really sick. But like even then, like all of the animals died because they simply looked old. And did they happen like right off the bat? And here's the thing, no it didn't. It actually happened over time. And it wasn't like one animal died and then after that the next. It was literally like one animal died, okay? And then literally, let's say 3 months later another animal dies, and then 5 months later another animal dies. But within that 700-day period, like, you have to understand everything was thriving, right? And I say within the 700-day period, I'm talking that 700-day period, no animal was dying. Everything was healthy. Everything was like that. It was as soon as the 700 period ended, a lot of the animals died, and it took them probably another year or two for almost everything to go out extinct. We even put oxygens and stuff like that, and we tried our best to like take care of them, but simply it was too old. There were a few that had babies and grew up a little bit, but even then they were simply just old, and they just ended up not surviving. Which is, again, really crazy to think about. But what's crazy is they were alive. Even within the 700 grace period I'm talking about, that the 700 days, I'm not kidding, they were alive. And they were just happy, healthy, and well. Like, none of them showed any signs of low oxygen. None of them showed signs of any problems with their health. You have to understand, 700 days with low oxygen, like imagine there was no oxygen within the 700 days, even though the past 700 days, like, you know, there was oxygen, like, something is fishy. So it's like, it's weird. So yeah, I mean, the conclusion I made is that they ended up dying because they got older, and they got, you know, because we had them for a very long time. I mean, 3.5 years, I guess, you know. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, 700 days is like, what, 2 years? Maybe like 2.5 or something like that. And even then, it was insane on how much we had the fish, because it was absolutely amazing. But yeah, again, the fish, again, didn't survive. Like, they literally survived by algae and everything like that. And the only reason why they ended up dying is literally because, like I told you, they were old. They were getting old. And it wasn't just, and also another thing is there wasn't a lot of space, you know what I'm saying? It was 29 gallons with, let's say, 3-4 species, and there were a whole bunch of mollies, a whole bunch of those stuff. You know, that's not really enough space, so that's also maybe one of my other reasons is there weren't a lot of space. And to be fair, there was actually a lot of species thriving. Some were even born in the aquarium and grew up. So even then, yeah, like, there was probably a lot of species in there that ended up, you know, just dying. And yeah, but what I find crazy is everything just was amazing, and it literally looked like a wildlife from day 1 to day 700. I even found a fish, the predator fish, by the way. I found it multiple times hunting, like, in the middle of whatever. I remember one molly literally bred, and I was like, ooh, let me see this, right? Like, not like it breeding, but like, ooh, let me see this, like, you know, this predator fish. And I literally see him go in the middle of, like, so he would literally just swim in the middle of the aquarium. And then when, like, let's say a fish would come across, like a baby fish, especially those mollies, because they didn't know what it was, right? So they would go literally towards him, I guess, and the dude would literally just eat him. Like, it was fast. He was just eating him. The dude was like fast, bro. Like, I saw his, like, freaking, you know, his freaking movements, and it was crazy. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my god, bro, this is like, bro, you know, this is crazy. Your speed is insane. But even then, like, a lot of these fish were simply healthy, strong, and, you know, just amazing. But I think they just died because it was just the lack of space, and again, the lack of you know, age. I mean, there was a lot of age problems, okay? I mean, once a fish gets old, obviously you're gonna see a lot of aging, and they end up dying. I mean, it's the same thing. But here's the thing, let me know what you guys think about it, because I've seen people who tell me, like, you know, once they have, you know, pet fish, you know, they literally don't believe it because they end up dying. Like for them, is fish end up dying because they end up dying. They don't know how to take care of it. They don't know, like, because of that, they come to a conclusion where they don't believe, like, let's say, the story that I tell them, or even YouTube videos that shows it online. Personally, I believe it, and I really do. But what compels me, and what actually makes even my story unique from all of the other YouTubers out there, is I had nothing on the aquarium to support life. The only life I had was fish, and those fish were, again, tiny, like, you know, they weren't even tiny fishes or tiny little microorganisms. They were fish. Like, they were straight up fish, like big giant mollies, plecos, whatever. It wasn't like there was nothing to support it from the beginning to have that life. It was simply from algae growing organisms, and even then it was absolutely amazing. But it just felt really awesome, and I know I'm just talking a lot in this video, but it really did feel awesome talking about this because it just felt really cool. I mean, hell, when I saw the fish, most of the time I would even watch them hours literally eating algae on top. Like, I saw one molly, I remember this, would literally, like, one molly, I swear to God, had a bad eating habit and would simply just non-stop eating algae. He was healthy, like, he would, like, run around. The dude was wild. The dude literally was, I called him Schizo Molly. I really did. Or Schizophrenic Molly. Like, I really did. And here's the reason why. So when I first got him, right, he was always staring on top of, like, he was, like, staring on top of the lights. Like, he was seeing something. But even then, like, when I first, again, got him, he wasn't really one of the healthiest mollies, nor one of the more active mollies. He really did look like he was sick, and a lot of times he would look like he was running away from something. I thought it was a ringworm or whatever, or something like that. It turned out it was nothing. Like, even when he died, there was nothing. If it was a ringworm, by the way, then the fish would get like infected. But keep in mind, it was nothing. And here's the thing. Yeah, you could probably come to a conclusion maybe in the 700-day period, ringworms, you know, infested the tank, but seriously, no, there was no ringworms when we cleaned it out. There was no signs of anything like that, even fish, or, you know, you could even, like, if there were signs of ringworms or something like that, you could probably see them, you know, hanging out on top of their butt, you know what I'm saying? But even then, I didn't see that. There was nothing like that, and there was no ringworms or anything like that. He was simply schizo. Like, he was literally he was the only molly who would look up in the tank for probably 24/7 for no reasons whatsoever. But the funny part about him is when I actually put him in the tank, like, literally within 2 months, he was active. He would still look up, like, then and there, but he was so active. He would eat all the time. He would literally, like, he was amazing, by the way. He was like, he had so much characters than all of the other mollies. And all of the other mollies literally just swam around and did, like, nothing but eat. And the dude had more character than all of them. I was like, oh my God, I made a good choice buying you. I don't know why, but I made an amazing choice buying. He was my favorite molly. Imagine having a favorite fish. Like, but yeah, that was awesome. Other than that, like, most of the fish that I, like, put in there were schooling fish, so most of the time they were operating by schooling. I remember this one skinny catfish I put in there. It survived for a very long time, but then it died because I don't know why it died, actually. I really don't know why. I think it died from natural causes it died because that predator fish ended up eating it. And here's the thing, that was when I figured out that predator fish I was talking about was a predator. Like, I thought it was eating algae or whatever. That's my first impressions when I first saw it. But no, it literally ate fish. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, let's not, you know what I'm saying? But since, you know, the fish were thriving, everything were happy, like, it literally felt like it was an aquarium, just, it was there, right? Even the predator fish wasn't really a threat to the mollies or anything like that. The mollies would literally pass the predator fish, like, just pass it like nothing. The dude wouldn't even bite or anything like that. There was just, you know, it was amazing. But yeah, again, like, even that molly I was talking about, he was amazing. And dude, all of these fish were just amazing. But within the 700-day period, I didn't know how in the world it thrived. And again, I don't know how it died either, and if someone could explain to me in the comments, let me know, because I've tried figuring out and understanding, but simply there was just no signs of anything bad in the aquarium. I even tested the anomia levels and all of that, and here's the wild part, everything was normal. It wasn't like it was no oxygen, no nothing. It was simply, everything was normal. It was just somehow, some way, they ended up dying out like it was nothing. Like they died out, but I don't know how. But anyways, let me know what you guys think, because literally it was just one of my favorite things to talk about. If you want me to tell you some wild stories from the tank, I can. I wanted to make a second part. Maybe this video can have a little bit of attention so I can please someone tell me down below maybe why they died. But even then, I just wanted to make the video because of that. But again, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later because I've been yapping for 20 minutes. Take care. Peace out. Bye.